How is ideation essentially semiotic? When we begin a new commercial visual communication job, whether a design or illustration, we have to first engage with idea generation. Whether a quick job or a lengthy commission, ideas come first. Well, research comes first, and ideas emerge from the insights and possibilities discovered from researching. How are these research-led insights and possibilities semiotic? Well, let us see. Ideation. I use this term a lot, but you may call this first phase at the beginning of any creative work something else. Let us agree we are talking about the same thing, the creation of possible ideas that may solve the creative problem set by the client. Whether this is a design problem of brand X or an illustration problem of create a set of 10 illustrations for this book. It all begins with possibilities rather than definitive final outcomes. Those possibilities come from research-led insights that kickstart the creative process. But let us consider if those possibilities can be enhanced. All creators working commercially have a target audience. This may be defined by the client, or it may mean some research on the creator's part. In semiotic encoding, the audience is key. In season 2, we spent a lot of episodes. We focused on creatives engaging a lot of time in abduction. No, not kidnapping. Abductive reasoning, the logic of design. This is about forming a logical hypothesis of who your target audiences are. This reasoning, based on research, reveals insights on the target audience's lived experiences. In turn, this provides creatives clues to what familiar qualities and resemblances to known things the audience will perceive, which creatives can then semiotically hack. Peirce says nothing is a semiotic sign until it is first interpreted as a sign. Without knowing what a panda is, an audience would never arrive at an interpretation of a drawing of a panda as a panda. What comes first, the semiotic sign or the image? Let us not think in binary terms. If 3 people look at a pattern of black splodges and perceive 3 different interpretations, the black splodges remain what they are. Perception of the visual element may see the marks either as just random marks or they are meaning bearing. Humans are hardwired to interpret visual elements for signs of meaning. In our distant hunter-gatherer past, it was the daily survival balance between eating something or being eaten by something. As creatives, every mark you make has the potential by the target audience to be interpreted as meaning bearing, whether you encode meaning into a splodge or not. So, semiosis offers you the semiotic framework to actively visually encode meaning where you intend it. Okay, back to our 3 people looking at black splodges. What could these black splodges mean, if anything? To one person, they just see black splodges and nothing else. They do not perceive anything. To this person, they are not meaning bearing. To the second person, they perceive the same black splodges form a pattern that suggests to them something. In their lived experience, they are familiar with the shape of an animal. The black splodges offer them the possibility that the pattern they form is not random. The alignment resembles, in their perception, the qualities of legs, a body, a head, etc. This person interprets the same black splodges as meaning bearing. The final person perceives exactly the same as the second person, but in their lived experience, they can go much further in their interpretation than the second person. They go from a possibility to name the thing they see as a panda. These are the same black splodges, but perceived in 3 different ways, with 2 different interpretations, with only one person seeing the panda. It is the panda we wanted them to interpret. Let us flip this example from perception to semiotic encoding of the visual elements. In the drawing of the panda, the creative has used certain marks to form the shape of what we know as a panda. The distinctive black and white markings are crafted in such a way, utilising the gestalt of figure and ground to emphasise a panda. Semiotically speaking, each mark used is individually meaning bearing. Each mark is an encoded semiotic sign. Think of each mark as a micro visual communication building block, which is semiotically functioning at the lowest level of iconic representation. Yes, I know mark also has a meaning in branding. What do we do when we sketch? We make rough drawings and tentative drafts of what we may eventually take to completion. These drawings, in whatever media, can represent features of observed scenes or objects, or conjure up things from memory or imagination. Often sketches are preliminary studies of intention used to problem solve composition, point of view, or other forms of problem solving. Sketching can be observational or purely propositional. Sketching is still in its rough state of aesthetic finish, visual communication. Sketches, however, typically use quick marks and simple lines to capture only the essential elements of the subject matter. A sketch will usually lack many of the details that a finished drawing would have. The fundamental elements will get worked out in a sketch, such as composition, proportion, scale, and the balance between values. Ideation involves sketching. Ideation in a creative process, whether by a graphic designer or illustrator, follows 3 stages. These are idea generation, idea selection, and idea development. The client in their brief provides you with a creative visual communication problem to solve. Research provides you with insights from contextual knowledge gleaned from a variety of sources. Ideation is the process you have all been doing since day one of design school, whether you call it that or not. You generate ideas by sketching these possibilities. You visually communicate possible creative solutions to others and yourself with the minimum of visual marks. How does someone else see your possible solution from a few roughly sketched marks? They interpret what they see from their lived experiences. But how clear have you been in sketching the idea? If the person, a fellow creative, a client, does not successfully interpret what you hope they will, then as the creative you can then simply adjust the sketch to visually communicate your intended meaning with more clarity. At each stage of ideation, you adjust your sketches toward the development of a successful visual communication solution to the brief. At each stage of ideation, from generation, selection, and development of ideas, you are crafting the visual language from your sketches to become meaning-bearing. At each stage of ideation, you move from possibilities to propositions to finally visual communication of intended meaning through your aesthetic decisions. Whether you realize it or not, you have always been semiotically encoding levels of meaning into your chosen visual language. Pierce's semiosis now helps you to finesse how well you do this. With Semiosis 101, I am lifting the veil of semiotic theory to show the alignments to what creatives already do. In translating arcane semiotic terminology into your existing creative process, Semiosis 101 brings Persian semioticians and creatives closer into a mutually beneficial communicational situation. Let me summarize how ideation is essentially semiotic. Brief, research, idea generation, idea selection, idea development, outcome. That is a creative process. It is not linear, as each step in itself is fluid. Next week we will explore this semiotic topic with the design double diamond. The brief sets the communicational problem to solve. Research provides the creative with contextual knowledge to provide understanding and insights into both the brief's topic and the target audience. These insights provide initial ideas. The creative then can begin sketching possible visual ways to convey these ideas to the audience. But at the sketching stage, all they have to do this are lines, marks, shapes, colours, etc. These basic visual communication building blocks of potential meaning will remain lines, marks, shapes, colours, etc. until someone else interprets what they see as possibilities of familiar qualities and visual resemblance to things they know. But surely they are just lines, marks, shapes, colours, etc. As soon as the individual elements are interpreted as meaning something more, Gestalt, the basic building block begins to work semiotically. Just imagine if, as a creative, you could be more effective in doing this. Come back next week when we will go deeper into the ideation process to apply semiosis. I am Dave Wood, a design educator and researcher, a published design author, and I've worked commercially as both a freelance illustrator and graphic designer. The guy behind the theory, Charles Sanders Peirce, was a philosopher, a mathematician, and a theorist. but he was not a creative. Each week on this Scouse-Scot Semiosis 101 YouTube channel, I will post at least one free 10-minute explainer episode on an aspect of Peirce's pragmatic semiotic theory. Each free YouTube episode features a take-home piece of applicable semiotic theory, and they do interconnect to build up your understanding of semiosis. Each free Semiosis 101 YouTube 10-minute episode will use design-centric terms instead of theoretical language. As well as the free YouTube episodes, I have 2 further Semiosis 101 semiotic resources you can subscribe to. Semiosis 101 producer roles are now available on Patreon. If you take out a paid Patreon Semiosis 101 patronage, you will get access to all the future season episodes months before they get published on YouTube. As a Patreon Semiosis 101 patron, you will automatically become a Semiosis 101 producer and get a name credit on all future YouTube episodes. Depending on which of the 4 producer tiers you choose, you will also get access to behind the scenes insights, cool Semiosis 101 Patreon merchandise, and other goodies for Semiosis 101 to continue making semiotic episodes. As a Patreon Semiosis 101 producer, you will be financially supporting the sustainable future of Semiosis 101 to keep explaining Peirce's semiotic theory. To become a Patreon Semiosis 101 producer, the link is in the description. I have a written semiotic resource available on the Semiosis 101 Substack. Here I have semiotic support materials for both free and paid Substack subscribers. There are full annotated reading lists, episode transcripts, 5-minute semiotic reads, plus other goodies and exclusive Semiosis 101 Substack merchandise. The Substack link is in the description. As a fellow creative and a published design author, I also have a link in the description to my main Scouse-Scot website. If you're interested in reading my semiotic Rosetta Stone academic writing, then you can visit my academia.edu link in the description. Any other books on Peircean semiotics or design I've mentioned in the episodes are also listed in the description. Check them out too. Thanks for watching. Check out the other Semiosis 101 episodes, like and share them with your friends. And hit the bell and subscribe buttons to be notified when next week's free Semiosis 101 episode is published. You can also follow Semiosis 101 on the socials for updates. It is at Semiosis 101 on Instagram and Threads. See you all again next week for more Semiosis 101 to help illustrators and designers to enhance your visual communication skills.